No matter how much you think you know about dementia, nothing prepares you for the painfully slow disappearing of your loved one. Those are Gabrielle Union's words. She wrote them on April 5th, 2026, the morning after her father died. Not a press release, not a statement through a publicist. A real post on a real Saturday morning from a daughter who had just lost her father and sat down to write about it the way you only write when the words have to get out, or they'll stay inside you forever. This video is about those words and the man who made them necessary. His name was Sylvester Cully Union Jr. He was 81 years old. He was a military sergeant, a Nebraska football devotee, a man who treated strangers like family and never let anyone feel unseen. He was a perfectly imperfect man who evolved, apologized, made amends, and kept evolving. He was Gabrielle Union's father, her first teacher, her blueprint. And dementia took him slowly, painfully, piece by piece, before it finally took him completely on the morning of April 4th, 2026. This is his story, and hers, and in a lot of ways ours, because if dementia hasn't touched your family yet, the statistics say it probably will. Before Hollywood, there was Cully Union. Sylvester Union was born in October 1944 in Omaha, Nebraska, into a large multi-generational black family that had deep roots in that city. He grew up in a strict Catholic home, raised by parents who believed that faith, respect, and discipline were not suggestions. They were the architecture of a life well lived. He carried that architecture into everything he did. He served in the United States military, reaching the rank of sergeant. He worked as a manager at AT&T alongside his wife Teresa for years. He raised 3 daughters, Kelly, Gabrielle, and Tracy, first in the rich black community of Omaha, and then, after his job, transferred the family in Pleasanton, California, a predominantly white suburban community in Northern California where black families were few, and the culture shock was real. He was not a soft man. He was not the kind of father who said, "I love you" easily, or who sat in the feelings with you. He was the kind of father who held you to a standard, who pushed you without always explaining why, who set a bar and expected you to clear it, not because he doubted you, but because he knew what was waiting for you outside the front door, and he intended to make sure you were ready. Gabrielle Union has talked about her father in interviews over the years with the specific honesty of someone who has done real work to understand the parent they had, not just the parent they wished they'd had. She's described him as stern, demanding. A man who pushed her harder than her classmates precisely because she was one of the only black children in her school, and the pressure on her was doubled by the world before she ever walked through the door. He told her directly what she was up against. He told her she would have to be just as smart, if not smarter, just as good, if not better, just as fast, if not faster. He prepared her for reality, not by softening it, but by naming it. That is a particular kind of love. A demanding love, the kind that sometimes looks like pressure and only later reveals itself as preparation. He was also a Nebraska Cornhuskers football fanatic. This is not a footnote. This is foundational. In the Union household, you did not have opinions about football unless you could back them up with knowledge. You needed to know the black shirt defense. You needed to know the I-back formation. You needed to be able to hold a conversation about the Cornhuskers at game time, or you had no standing at the table. Gabrielle has said she knew the Turner-Gill walk and could talk Cornhusker strategy before she could talk Hollywood strategy. Her father gave her that, and through it, he taught her something that went far beyond football, the value of showing up informed, prepared, and fully engaged in something you care about. He never met a stranger, she wrote, just friends he hadn't met yet. He loved her friends too, treated them like his sons and daughters. No one was ever left behind or unseen. That is the man. Before the diagnosis, before the slow, terrible unraveling that dementia brings. That is Cully Union. What she took from him into the world. 1972, in Omaha, Nebraska, the middle daughter of 3 sandwiched between her older sister Kelly and younger sister Tracy. When her father was transferred to California, she went too, trading the black community of Omaha for a predominantly white suburb, where she would spend her formative years being the rare exception in almost every room she entered. She's talked about those years with both clarity and compassion, the isolation of being one of the only black girls in her environment, the way she internalized standards of beauty that didn't include her, the pressure of performing excellence in spaces that were watching for her to fall short, and always, underneath all of it, her father's voice telling her what she was and what she had to be. She channeled him directly into her acting. In the film Deliver Us from Eva, she studied her father's serious expressions and his particular brand of stern authority to build her character. He was her first acting teacher and didn't know it. His way of carrying himself, disciplined, present, commanding, became a tool she reached for on set. She made the Dean's List at Foothill High School. She attended UCLA and earned a degree in sociology. She started acting with small television roles in the late 1990s, Moshe, Seventh Heaven, Sister Sister, before landing supporting parts in She's All That and 10 Things I Hate About You in 1999. And then Bring It On in 2000, and everything changed, being Mary Jane from 2013 to 2019. Bad Boys 2, Daddy's Little Girls, Think Like a Man, Breaking In. 2 memoirs, We're Going to Need More Wine and You Got Anything Stronger, that are as honest and sharp and funny as any person has ever been in print, about the specific experience of being a black woman in America, in Hollywood, in love, in grief. Time magazine put her on the list of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2020. She and her husband, retired NBA star Dwyane Wade, received the NAAC P-Image Awards President's Award for their humanitarian work. All of it built on the foundation Sylvester Union laid in Omaha, Nebraska, in a house where you could not have an opinion unless you could back it up. She became the embodiment of everything he prepared her to be, and he was there to see it. And then dementia started taking him away, before she was ready, before any of them were ready, because that is always how it goes with dementia. Nobody is ever ready. When you learn what dementia actually means for a family. In October 2023, Gabrielle Union posted a birthday tribute to her father on Instagram that stopped a lot of people in their tracks. Not because of anything dramatic, but because she told the truth. She shared that her father was in memory care. She talked about what dementia actually looks like from the inside, as a daughter watching it happen. And she told people what she wanted them to do with that information. It all just reminds me to be a good, loyal friend, a great neighbor, prioritize your family, have a spirit of adventure and don't take no shit. And always show up and show love. That post also included one of the most quietly devastating exchanges you'll ever read. A conversation she had with her father during one of her visits, at a point when dementia had already taken so much from him. He saw her. He recognized her. And what came out was all heart, no filter. He said, "I really love you." She said, "I love you too, Dad." He asked, "How's your mom?" And Gabrielle, whose parents had been divorced for years, just made a face and said, "Sir." He asked if she was happy. She said yes. He nodded, grinned and asked, "You're not taking no shit, are you?" She said never. He said he loved her again. She said that interactions stayed with her all day and made her emotional. That is what dementia does and doesn't do. It takes names and dates and recent memories. It scrambles the sequence of a life. But sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the core of a person is the last thing to go. And Sylvester Union's core, even in the fog, was love and the specific fierce pride he felt in his daughter. The disease progressed. The family made the decision in 2023 to move him into a professional memory care facility. Not lightly, not without grief, but because his needs had grown beyond what could be safely managed at home. Gabrielle was publicly honest about that too. At the American Black Film Festival in Miami in June 2025, she stood on a stage during a discussion called Sisterhood and Savings and said something that shocked people who had never had to do the math. More recently, my father is in memory care, nursing homes, what's covered by insurance, what's not, home health aides. All that adds up. I have to go where the money goes. I don't have the luxury of taking all the independent films that I want, she said, with complete matter-of-fact honesty. So it kind of depends on what I've made that year on how creative I can be. And that's a damn shame, but that's reality. Memory care in the United States costs an average of $5,000 to $7,000 a month. Insurance often covers very little of it. The burden falls almost entirely on families, and disproportionately on daughters, who statistically provide the majority of unpaid dementia caregiving in this country. Gabrielle Union was not complaining, she was reporting. She was saying out loud what millions of families live in silence, because talking about money in the context of caring for a parent feels somehow disloyal, like you're putting a price on love. She refused to be silent about it, because silence doesn't help the families who are drowning in the same costs right now. His 80th birthday in 2024 was marked with a Hawaii-themed gathering, chosen because it reminded him of peaceful, joyful times. His 80th birthday in 2025 was spent at his bedside. Gabrielle and Dwayne Wade sat with him, held his hand, and filled the room with presents. The celebration got smaller. The man inside it stayed in the ways that mattered most. What dementia takes, what it cannot. Here is what Gabrielle Union said about the progression of her father's dementia. Not paraphrased, not softened. First it's repeating words or forgetting little things here or there, then, boom. He can't swallow or walk. The them that you know gets smaller and smaller. That word, them. Not him, them. As if the person you love becomes a category of people you're trying to hold on to. The father who pushed you, the father who watched football, the father who asked if you were happy, the father who could still see you through the fog and love you across it. All of those thems, shrinking. You hold out hope for sustained eye contact or a smile, she wrote. Even a hand squeeze can make you feel like they could come back to you normal at any second. That is dementia. That is the thing no brochure or medical pamphlet ever tells you about the experience of loving someone through it. The disease, she was careful to say, was brutal, but it was not who he was, and that distinction matters enormously to anyone who has watched a parent or a partner or a sibling be reduced in public perception to their diagnosis. The disease is not the person. The person is still in there, smaller, quieter, harder to reach, but in there. Her sisters, Kelly and Tracy, who are both deeply private women who have never sought the spotlight their famous sibling lives in, stepped up during these final years in ways that Gabrielle described simply as heroic. They are heroes, she wrote, and I love you both beyond words. The medical and memory care staff who looked after Sylvester Union were given specific, named gratitude in her tribute, not a generic thank you to the doctors. A specific acknowledgement that these are people who show up every shift for families in the hardest possible moments, and that their work deserves to be honoured by name. On April 4th, 2026, a Friday morning, Sylvester Cully Union Jr. died. He was 81 years old. He was surrounded by love. The next morning his daughter wrote, "What she said on Saturday morning." On April 5th, 2026, Gabrielle Union posted a carousel of throwback photos on Instagram. Photos of her father across decades, candid, alive, unmistakably him. And alongside the photos she wrote, she said it was bewildering to feel relief that his pain had ended while also feeling profound heartbreak at the finality of his time. She did not resolve that contradiction because it cannot be resolved. Both things are true. The relief and the heartbreak live in the same chest, and pretending otherwise serves no one. She described her father as a perfectly imperfect man, and father who over time evolved, acknowledged his imperfections, apologized, and made amends for as long as it took for the hurts to heal. Those words. Perfectly imperfect. Not a saint. Not a symbol. A man who got things wrong and then did the work of getting them right. That is a different kind of tribute than the sanitized ones we so often see, the ones that flatten a person into their best moments and smooth away the complexity that made them real. She called her parents the first allies and comrades she ever witnessed in action. She said she vowed to follow in their footsteps. And she ended the post with an invitation, an open comment section. She wrote, "P.S. If you knew my dad, please share in the comments. Our family will cherish every memory." She didn't close the door on him. She opened the comments section. That is, in its own way, the most Cully Union thing she could have done. He never met a stranger, just friends he hadn't met yet. And in death, his daughter extended that same invitation to the world. Come in, tell us who he was to you, because we want to know. The response was immediate and enormous. People who had never heard of Sylvester Union before April 5, 2026, found themselves moved by the specificity of his daughter's grief, by the conversation about dementia that didn't use clinical language but human language, by the image of a man who had lost so much to the disease and still, in a moment of clarity, grinned at his famous daughter and asked if she was still not taking any. There is a thing that happens when we lose a parent. The specific, irreplaceable relationship that only exists between a child and the person who raised them, the one who gave you your first understanding of what the world expects from you, what you should expect from yourself, that relationship ends, and nothing fills the exact shape of it. Nothing is supposed to. Sylvester Union gave his middle daughter a work ethic she has never stopped using. He gave her the Nebraska Cornhuskers, the black shirt defense, the specific passion of belonging to a team and caring about something bigger than yourself. He gave her the voice that told her she would have to be better, smarter, faster, and the belief that she was capable of it. He gave her a last conversation that ended with a grin and a question she'd been hearing her whole life rephrased. He gave her sisters who became heroes. He gave her the specific grief of watching dementia take someone slowly, and the courage to describe that grief publicly, in full detail, because she knew there were families doing this alone in silence, and she refused to let them. Gabrielle Union knows his love is eternal. She said so herself. I know his love is eternal. Not past tense. Not was. Is. Eternal. Sylvester Cully Union Jr. was born in October 1944 in Omaha, Nebraska. He served his country. He raised his daughters. He loved his people. He coached you whether you wanted to be coached or not. He never left anyone behind or unseen. He died April 4th, 2026, at 81 years old, after a battle that dementia wins eventually, always, but that he fought with everything the disease left him. To his daughter Gabrielle, his daughters Kelly and Tracy, and to the ever-growing village of people he treated like family, he raised someone who tells the truth. That was not an accident. That was him.